we're doing things a little bit different today. It's only Clay and I, and we're gonna be ranking using one of those like tier ranking systems to, I guess, put in tiers like a lot of our some of the better known, or at least some of the things that we think are better known Batman stories in the comics. But yeah, instead of doing the previously on and at the beginning of the show, we're gonna save it for later. Let's get right into the ranking. So this was Clay's idea.
I pulled
So
all my Batman books, Batman Family, Batman Adjacent, and then we just threw in everything else to try to talk about like what we own, what we like. And if we can both agree on a title being a perfect Batman book, that'll be one of our essential Batman books.
mhm.
And I don't know if there is an essential Batman book.
We'll see.
You want to grab one of the titles and start?
Yeah, let's. So real quick, I did want to touch on how the tiers kind of work. For
Yeah.
anybody that's unfamiliar, so the tiers kind of started with fighting games, right? I think that's where the like people that would play fighting games like Smash Brothers and stuff like that, they would rank the characters in these tiers. So the top tier S, which is weird that S is at the top, but that's like the most consistent. Like and like Clay said, in our case, it'll be like essential, what we consider to be essential reading. Then everything else from there kind of integrates into like the school grade that we think, like very similar to that. So like A could be like, way above average, not quite essential, but also like really good. B, I would say maybe that's where our good stuff is. The big meat of it. C is something that maybe misses the mark a little bit on like
Yeah.
how good it can be. D would be stuff that maybe we don't like. We read it, but don't really consider. I don't know. Maybe revisiting or even recommending it to someone.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any D material in here.
Oh, I have one.
Oh, really?
Well,
Oh, wait a minute. I do have one. Yeah, that's right. I
that's
do
why
have one.
when I sent you the stuff, I didn't just pick my favorite stuff because I thought that would be kind of boring.
Yeah.
I went on Hoopla and I just put in Batman in the title, and whatever came up in the first page, I just pulled it out, sent you a screenshot. Well, whatever pulled up that I had read.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk shit about books I haven't read. So that's the other thing, right? Clay and I both put a list together, so we may not have read everything.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part is if I have a book I truly love and you've never read it, we can't get an essential book out of
You just got to convince me, I guess.
it. All
So
right, what book do
yeah,
you want to start with?
let's get started. And we'll share this after in the somehow, probably Twitter or something. So let's start with, is this
That's
Catwoman?
Catwoman, celebration of 75 years. I've got a copy of
Okay.
it right here. It is just all the stories from the beginning of Catwoman to now, and it's like produced really well. I'm trying to remember the year it came out so that you know what year or the last year the stories are in. Yeah, the oldest story in here is from 2014, and it's from a Catwoman story. But we got Paul Dini. I mean, this goes back to the origins. This goes back to the early days of Catwoman. And even when you open the book, you get art of the Catwoman.
Let me embiggen you here. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a nice book in how it's put together. The cover art by Adam Hughes. All the different stories that are in here. I don't know how they were picked. But then again, here is the hardcover under the sleeve. That's really nice. Some of the old art.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Classic Catwoman.
Yeah, Terry, if you got questions, drop them in the chat. We'll talk as they.
Yeah, we'll pull them up. But it's produced on nice material. The reprints are nice and clean. You've got some Jim Ballant art. But it is just a collection of random stories. That's the
Okay.
So
my initial gut says I haven't read it, so I want to put it at C only because I haven't read it. But you can talk it up if you.
You know,
what do you think?
It's just random stories. I don't know if they're essential. I don't know. Catwoman's just not one of my characters, so it's tough to judge this one. because
Okay.
this is a Shelby book.
Uh-oh. So Shelby should be the one pitching this book.
Yeah, she's getting ready to go to work. Um, as far as Catwoman, I think I would lean towards the Ed Brubaker stuff. This is a nice sample. If you want to get a history of Catwoman and you want to get some of the stuff that um, they pulled and produced out of this, it's a good, it'll meet the expectations of some of the older stuff, which is not, I mean, sometimes it's campy, sometimes it's weird, sometimes you have a cat person as Catwoman. So it just depends on your taste. It's really hard to say. Like, to me, I love like the crime stuff. I love when Catwoman and Selena Kyle are just stealing from the rich and doing whatever she wants. That's this is just a collection of random stuff.
Okay. Cool. So we do have a question in chat. Which version / take on Batman do you respond to in a personal way? Which do you connect with the most? That's interesting.
I mean, I want to say Adam West because that was my first Batman.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of people, pick Adam West as a Batman because you see all these memes going around saying who's your Batman, and he's never a part of that list.
Which is
But that's
weird.
yeah, but that's like what I grew up on, So to see Adam West as Batman, that's like me being a kid again and watching Batman and George Reeves Superman back to back.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to say and I'm really not going live action or anything, but from the comics, it has to be the Snyder Capullo Batman version of the
Oh
character.
yeah.
And it really is because it's really a personal hook because which can kind of lead us to the next thing. I'll just skip over to this one.
Yeah, I went to media. I didn't go to what version in the comics.
So yeah, no, and I mean I can talk about that one too. So this right here, this is when I got into comics, like really got into comics back in 2012, and I'm talking about like when I started collecting and all that. So this was essentially to me my first full deep dive into Batman. I had read all the Batman stuff in the past before because I had read some other comics, but New 52 Batman, Court of Owls, which is right here, which I'm putting on the A tier, but you can try to talk it down.
Bump it up.
Oh, you
I
think
think
so?
this is an
You
S
think this is
tier
essential?
book. I
Ooh,
think to argue that point is, I mean, everything in that story hits. The art hits,
yeah.
the story hits. It's New 52, but they keep the essence of Batman
Hmm.
and introduce Court of Owls. And he does it in such a great way that I feel like you can pick this book up and just know who Batman is
Yeah.
and get so much out of it. So Court of Owls to me, I mean, that really is probably one of my favorite books in the past.
Yeah, and I
I'll
think
just say 10 years. Yeah.
reason I didn't put it in S tier immediately was because I went back and reread it, and in the book, that run got so much better as time went by. Like
Yeah.
this was this first trade is from like when Capullo and Snyder were still just kind of like getting to know each other and understanding how to work with each other, and it does some really cool things. I just think there's stuff maybe farther ahead in the run, although it does do some really essential retconning of Gotham as a whole.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you on it. I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not
It's
gonna fight
weird because it's a New 52 book, but it doesn't take the New 52 stance like every other book
you.
and
Yeah,
redesign everything and redo everything. That's the character. That character just works. All they did was add great history, great villains, and something Batman's never fought before.
yeah, and on the other thing, when it says about the, I mean, if you want to talk about non-comics Batman, I would just say the animated version from the series and the Justice League animated show. That one's the one I mean, I spent, I don't know, the better part of a decade with that character.
Yeah.
As he evolved too. So that would be the one I connect with the most.
I
Let me look.
oddly connect with the Lego Batman
Okay.
just because to know Lego Batman, you have to know so much history of Batman. So I feel like I kind of go in it pretty well armed, and so it's funnier and it pays off, you know.
All right, here we have another question, and maybe it'll lead us into another one of these books. Is there a version that is widely loved that you just don't respond to? Uh, let's see.
Batfleck. because he
Get out of
doesn't
here.
really have a film to stand on his own. But
I'll
I,
kick you out of here.
everyone, I know you love Ben Affleck, but I mean, he didn't really get anything to do, you know? Like
Yeah.
Batman v Superman is a turd, and he just, you know, like he shows up, he gets a great scene in Suicide Squad. He gets great moments, but he never did anything, and I kind of wish he had. And people hype him up too much, I feel like.
You know, I get what you're saying, but I think if you put in all the time he spent, because Justice League is the Zack Snyder version is so long, he was probably on screen almost as much as Michael Keaton Batman. If you just add up the runtime,
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely more on screen than George Clooney or Val Kilmer. Although those aren't like I know people like those movies. I like those movies too, as bad as they are. Um,
I like Austin's comment.
yeah, Clay just hating on everything.
No, I don't hate on everything. I
No, I mean everything he loves
everything he loves.
and everything I love.
There are other, you know, Batman, you know, that you can enjoy where they have a full movie and it's not spread out over a series that didn't take.
We don't talk about Batman. Man. Yeah, it's always personal attacks when Austin logs in. But but yeah. Now, as far as these comics, is there any comic that you think? I would say the Killing Joke. Let's do that one because I think that one's
Okay,
kind of
Killing Joke is going to
controversial.
be very debatable because
So,
I did reread the Killing Joke.
mhm.
I mean, the story clicks except for the fact that Barbara Gordon is kind of brought in just to be shot
Yeah,
and abused, and isn't really used in any other way other than as a victim and as a prop to drive her father insane.
yeah. I think, and I'm gonna start with it at B, which is kind of the middle, and we'll move it around if we need to.
I mean, other than that point, the art is
Yeah,
solid. Brian Boland, you just don't get better than.
yeah. I think once, and the thing is, this book was originally not canon by DC, right?
Right. And then
But
everyone loved it.
the impact of it is so much, and even the I guess the themes of like even one bad day. Hold on, Clay.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but this is without the book cover. Oh, you cannot.
Oh yeah, no.
It is
Is
so,
it?
it
You
is
see a little
the,
etching, like there's something etched in there.
yeah,
Like,
essentially it is the last panel where Batman is choking the Joker. But it's just etched in and as an outline, so it's just him choking the Joker and laughing.
yep, there we go. Yeah. So I think I
It's
do.
hard to put this one down because of the story, but
Yeah,
I mean, they do. It's weird because they take Batgirl, they turn her into just being there to be victimized, and then she
yeah.
becomes Oracle. I don't know. I want to.
It's tough because it gave us like I mean Oracle. I think it's a really beloved character.
Oracle, I feel like, is a very important character now
Yeah.
and very inspirational to people who are handicapped and can't see themselves as superheroes. Oracle stepped up and became one,
Yeah.
even though she couldn't do the same thing she did as Batgirl before. And I feel like, you know, we almost should take a look at some of those stories. I don't know Barbara Gordon as well as I know Cassandra Cain.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say so. The only thing is the last few pages. This book is only like 80 pages long,
Yeah, it's just a prestige format.
and
The hardback that I got actually has extra stuff and an extra Brian Boland story in the back.
yeah, I think I have the same one. I think I got picked it up at Half Price Books once because um, I don't remember who asked me to borrow it, and I was like, I don't have one. I don't have one that I can let you borrow, but I'll find one. Um, so the only reason I would maybe move it up a tier is that conversation at the end of the book.
Yeah, yeah, I would give it an A, but it definitely it's hard, you know, to to
And
put
people
put
need
her
to
up there. And then
understand.
I don't know, it's just weird how Batgirl's treated in there. And then
I
even when they did the animated version, they did a weird
oh
version.
that I would put in the D pile.
Yeah, that's a D pile. Yeah, I'd never
The
watch animated
if the
Batman Killing
yeah,
Joke. That is a
I don't
fresh
recommend that
turd.
movie to anyone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip over this one because I think we'll have a big discussion on the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns is going to be interesting.
So let me see if there's something I could pull. So, who's Batman to you? The real Batman who has created the best Batman? Oh
Man.
man,
Um,
that's an interesting question. You know what? For that one, let's go. Let's bring in year one since we
year
do,
one.
so we
Okay.
can talk about Frank Miller.
Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli.
I think I don't know. Other than the Dark Knight, I can't think of another book that has influenced Batman media
Yeah.
so much as this. And then, unlike the Dark Knight, this is considered like this was the relaunch of the Batman series after the events of what was it, Crisis, Zero Hour, one of those reboots.
Yeah. Some retcon.
Then you throw in Mazzucchelli, who is just a master at work,
Yeah.
and this book still is still being referenced even with the newest the Batman movie. This is another one of the things that influenced that book.
The
I mean that
pacing
movie.
in that book is amazing. Like the speed. I mean, I don't think I've seen a book that is paced as well
Yeah.
until Hawkeye. Fractions Hawkeye, the way it
Mhm.
reads, because there's so much action in it, and the way it's drawn just plays out really well.
And it really dives into understanding why a young Batman it's different than the really cool aged Batman that we know and love, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think why I wouldn't make it an S. I just don't think it's first time reader material, even though it is year one Batman. I feel like you get more out of it going into it with a bit of history.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think A is probably a good spot for it. I could be talked into S, but I understand what you're saying. I think that's a good thing. So, to go back to Terry's original question, I think
Who has created the best Batman?
I
The
know Frank Miller went off the rails maybe in some of the later things that he's done with Batman, but
Yeah, I'm the
but this one, I
goddamn
mean,
Batman.
yeah, um,
I mean, visually, I really dig Neil Adams' look.
yeah,
He kind of took it from camp to action, and it paid off. On screen, I might have to say Christian Bale.
okay,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
the dude does Bruce Wayne well. He does Batman. He's constantly training. His relationship with Alfred is so solid. Even at the end when Alfred sees him, like
yeah.
I need to go back and rewatch it. I was talking with Terry last night about because he was rewatching Batman Begins, and I go, that's not one I'd revisit a lot, but I will watch like the
That
second one
that's one of those movies that I feel like got better
as
after
it went along.
like after the sequels came out.
Oh yeah.
Like I go back and revisit Batman Begins a little more, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Now you mentioned Neil Adams, so I kind of threw him in the B. I think that B is a good starting point for a lot of these, and we can work up and down.
Now I can
Um,
show you one of my favorite collectibles though.
sure. Hold on. Ooh, let me see how thick that is. Oh my god, that'll kill someone. Like a
No
phone book.
shit. Look at that.
It's like a phone book.
Oh yeah. Let me see here. But the autograph and the drawing inside. Jesus Christ, get my hand around it.
Oh, that's cool. That's so cool.
And yes, I have never finished this omnibus. But when you take the cover off, classic Batman, Neil
Oh,
Adams first cover. I mean,
oh, very cool.
yeah. I mean, just like if you ever see that comic around,
Or any homages to it, just
yeah.
pick it up.
Yeah, that is a classic cover.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't read as much Neil Adams, and a lot of it is with Danny O'Neill, right?
Yeah, now the early stuff was, yeah, but this stuff is his later stuff that
Oh,
he
okay.
did. So this is a completely different run. I have not finished it. I will say I've not heard a lot of great things about it. That his earlier stuff is way better because Denny O'Neil was writing it.
Yeah, like I read Odyssey, which is like a 12 issue thing, Batman Odyssey.
Yeah,
and
I think
the
that's
art's
part of
fantastic.
this.
Yeah, I think it should be. I think the art is fantastic. It's just the stories are not. I think I don't know. Neil Adams likes to have Batman do really fantastical things, and
Yeah.
like in the cover he's riding like a pterodactyl and stuff. So I'm like, which can be fun, but I don't know. I just that book I read it because it's one that I also got to when I first met Neil Adams one time. I
Oh
got a
wow.
sign and I bought that book. So I would leave this in the B category,
Yeah,
but
yeah, because I can't argue it for being higher, but but it's a Neil Adams thing that I would say probably his classic stuff is better, and I would focus on that stuff, his early 70s.
all right. Let's do one here. Let me just get this out of the way because
Which one?
I'm gonna put Three Jokers on the D pile.
Okay, yes. Let's talk
I
about Three Jokers.
I just I was so hyped for this book, and it's beautiful. Jason for box art is fantastic,
Yeah,
but
no argument with the art.
I don't know what happened with the story that we were being promised from years ago to the story that we got when this book finally came out.
Yeah.
I just really don't like recommending this to anyone unless you are a big fan of the artist or even Jeff Johns as the writer. Which if that's the
The
thing,
story doesn't work though.
yeah. And I
It
know it's Black Label and it's like it's not supposed to be canon or whatever, but originally it was meant to be. So like I don't know what happened.
it doesn't click. I don't know. I just didn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
His Jokers didn't feel.
it felt like it was like he could have picked more interesting versions of the
Yeah, I don't
Joker.
know. It feels like he's missing it. Like when I
Yeah,
read it, I just was like, I didn't get the take. I don't know.
and there's a whole weird thing of Red Hood and Batgirl hooking up, and I'm like, okay, I don't know that we needed this piece of it.
Yeah,
So yeah, that one I don't recommend. I don't recommend much. Um. So yeah, there it is.
yeah. Austin,
Uh.
where's your take on Three Jokers?
He probably loves it.
We're shitting on the book he loves the most.
All right. Let's see.
What is
This
that?
is I
Batman
think
Inc.
Grant Morrison
Yeah,
Incorporated. Batman
yeah.
Incorporated. Grant Morrison's.
I have struggled to get through that book, and I love
Okay.
Grant Morrison.
Oh.
I I have not finished it, so I wouldn't. I don't know. I have no. I really have had a hard time getting through it, and I don't get the gist of Batman Inc. as much as you do because you've explained
Yeah.
it to me.
Yeah. So Batman Inc. Real quick is Batman put in after Batman was dead and came back in Grant Morrison's run. Batman came back and figured that he wanted to recruit heroes from around the world, incorporate them, and put Bruce Wayne's money behind it so they could they could affect change the way he's trying to affect change in Gotham. Since he wasn't really needed in Gotham at the time because Dick Grayson was being Batman, he focused on doing this. So I think there's a lot of really cool. I do like the aspect of like incorporating Batman from all over the world
Yeah,
and bringing in new characters. But this kind of gets into something that I think happens after Grant Morrison's been on a run for a while, and I think it happened with X Men as well, where Grant Morrison loves making new characters,
yeah,
and they're really good at making new characters. But at some point, it kind of gets out of control, and you need to dial it back. So this was definitely not a beginner book at
oh
all.
no, no,
You need so much going into this. I don't. I think kind of like the Catwoman. I think there's an audience for it. So I feel comfortable leaving it here. I think either B or C. But it's not something I would go around recommending
yeah,
unless you're like, I've read everything Batman that I can. Do you have anything else that I might be missing? Then I would be like, well, have you read Batman Inc? But like I said, it has nothing to do. I think Grant Morrison was teamed up with fantastic artists throughout the run. Not because it's not just. I think it's a rotating group of artists that kind of come in for each of the
each.
different factions and category and characters that are introduced. So that part I like. But yeah, I would say that's where I kind of stand with that one.
Okay, what next?
Let's see. So I haven't read this one. So where do we want to put Black and White?
Black and White is just a series of standalone stories, though. I mean,
Mm,
it's in the same vein as Catwoman,
yeah,
but you do have a lot of great teams on there. It's weird because you can put it, you can argue that, well, if you don't like the story, you'll get the next one might be better, and you could say the same thing about Catwoman.
yeah,
I feel like the Black and White book um, picked good teams to be on that book.
yeah.
So
I think.
I
I
would
mean,
say maybe it's a B in the sense that it's a good book you could pick up and get random stuff in it.
okay. Yeah, because I think I want at the end of this, I want if we send this list to someone and they read that stuff in this order, like they go through the tiers.
Yeah.
I want them to be like, oh yeah, this was like this was a lot easier to get into because it's like easier to just more accessible. It's a good story. This will be a little more hit or miss, and as we get down it or whatever. So yeah, I think Beat's fine. I think anthology books are also hit or miss with people because some people just want like a big story.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean
oh,
that's the thing is like I went back and reread a lot of these, and so sometimes you would just get into big deep stories, and sometimes it's
mhm.
like nice to just read like a 2 or 3 issue arc, and that's it.
Yep.
We'll get to one of these that I read that had just some small stories, that 2 small stories in it, and I loved it.
So let's address this question and talk about the next book, which will be inspired by that. Does Batman have a Lois Lane? Um, I would say
I would say Catwoman. Oh
I
yeah,
would say
yeah.
Catwoman.
I would say yeah, and I definitely would put that Brubaker. Oh shit, who's the artist
Darwin
on
Cook.
that?
Darwin Cook.
Yeah, on that.
Yeah,
But
I think
Catwoman is like the opposite of Lois Lane. But then if you go read the Tom King interaction, what's the Tom
yes.
King date book?
Yeah.
Um, Batman and Catwoman go out on a date with Clark and Lois, and Selena and Lois, their exchanges are probably the best part of that book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
don't they even like go in and try on
Well, they have to
costumes?
they switch costumes because they go to like this theme park that is superhero themed, so people can wear costumes and they don't have other outfits, so they just switch.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. I mean, it's a good one. And yeah, look, I think DC's been working on. I know that Batman has a long history of different romantic partners.
Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale, Talia al Ghul. That one gets a little weird.
Yeah, that
Uh,
one's really weird.
Wonder Woman. I think a lot of people. I think that one's a lot from the animated series
Yeah.
because obviously you can't have Catwoman be part of the team because she's a villain. So Wonder Woman was kind of like she was also part of the team, and they worked that into the comic books. I don't know where it started first, but I know a lot of the people that love I would call it shipping Batman and Catwoman and Wonder Woman. The Wonder Bat fans come from this animated series.
Okay.
Um, but to me, just from all the stuff I read, even the movies and stuff, and it's kind of like a self fulfilling thing, right? Like we think Catwoman's the one, so maybe she's the one we should use for the movies. Which we'll see what happens here on this newest movie. But yeah, I would say Catwoman is the closest thing to a Lois Lane comparison.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Uh,
remember in any of the past runs if he had any relationships with anyone that were bigger than Catwoman.
I think somebody, what's her name, Silver St. Clair.
Oh, fuck yeah, I forgot about Kevin Smith. Didn't he write
Yeah,
her and him in that? Okay.
yeah, and I think that was a good relationship, but I think she's a better partner to just Bruce Wayne
And not Batman.
and not Batman. Whereas Catwoman, I think, is both. It's a good partner for both sides of it because also she has the same, like especially once they expanded her mythology of like being, related to the mob and all that stuff. Kind of when they brought that in. Now, as far as this book, Catwoman, I mean, Darwin Cook, I'm gonna have a hard time putting anything Darwin Cook under the B at all.
Right.
And then you
Right.
throw in Brubaker. Um, like yeah, that's pretty. The only reason I don't put this in essential reading is because I guess it's not a Batman book technically.
Yeah, but
Uh,
this is bat. This the only reason I don't put it in there. I I don't know.
I like it in A. I think I don't know that I would call this an essential reading for Batman. Um,
Is year one has a pretty good take on Catwoman, and it's pretty much isn't it kind of what's used in the film a bit?
yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So I would say so. But I think if we ever wanted to adapt Catwoman stuff to the screen, even if you want to continue with Zoe Kravitz, I would think this is a this is one of the two books I would probably get for that. So
Hey, can you drive for a minute? I got to step away.
yeah, sure.
All right.
All right. While Clay gets back, I do have another thing I want to show you guys. Uh, we from that same article in Variety, Matt Reeves talked about some of the comic books that influenced the Matt Reeves Batman movie. So let's talk a little bit about some of those. So we have starting here, Batman Ego and Other Tales. That is a Darwin cookbook. We haven't really put that in the chart. Maybe we'll go. We'll start with that next. But this book is just really cool noir. Darwin Cook's art is fantastic, so I highly recommend that. If you're making a read list of things to read for the Batman movie, I would say this is perfect. Next up, we have Batman Shaman. That's not something I've read, but it's Danny O'Neill, so I know for and like Danny O'Neill is one of the people that came in the '80s and just kind of revitalized the Batman and turned the franchise around even before Frank Miller, maybe late '70s, early '80s. So I would definitely say, um, yeah, I would definitely say that you need to check that out. So I'll probably be checking that out soon. Next up we have Batman. Well, I'll just do both, but Batman Year One, Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli, fantastic stuff. Now Batman Year Two, I haven't actually read, um, so it'll be interesting to go back and check that out. And then the last one here, uh, Batman: The Long Halloween, which I think we all know that that book inspired. It really has inspired a lot of the Batman movies. I know the Christopher Nolan movies were um, big inspiration for a big inspiration was Batman: The Long Halloween. It's a 12 issue series that does have some follow ups, and we'll talk about it in the charts here in a moment. But I think that's something that you definitely want to check it out. So if you're looking for Batman comics to read that maybe give you a little bit of a feel or a flavor, or if you watch the movie and you think those are really good, if you like the movie and you want to get some more stuff like that, I would recommend these five things: Batman Ego and Other Tales, Batman Shaman, Year One, Year Two, and The Long Halloween. Um, Now, while Clay gets back, I guess I'm just gonna keep working on the tier list. I don't know if he's read it, so I'll go with Batman the Imposter, and I'm actually gonna put this on the A tier. This is a book by Matt Tomlinson, who's one of the writers on the Batman movie, and with art by Andrea Sorrentino. Um, and it's just a really cool Elseworld story. Like this, I would recommend to anyone that even if you just know who Batman is, I would pick this because I don't think that you need a lot of story to get back into this. The premise is that there's another Batman in Gotham, and they're killing people. So Batman's got to figure out, how to deal with that. But also, this takes place very early on Batman's career, so he doesn't have the full trust and support of the police as he does sometimes. So I would recommend that. Now, another book that I'm gonna do on the tiers, and I'll check with Clay once he gets back. Um, is Batman the Detective? Uh, oh, hey
And I'm
Clay.
back.
So I just really quick. Let me recap while you were away.
All right.
Uh, in that same article from Variety from the movies I talked about earlier, these are some of the comics that Matt Reeves talked about being an influence on the movie. So I went
Ego.
over that. Yeah, and a few of these we haven't put on the tiers. So we'll talk more about that. Have you read Shaman?
No, I
It's
haven't.
it's a Denny O'Neil book. I'm intrigued because I haven't read it, so I want to check it out.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen the cover.
and then I picked two books that I sent you that I don't know, maybe you haven't read. They're pretty recent books for Batman.
Oh, which
Uh,
ones?
the first one is Batman the Imposter.
Oh, yeah, I
This
have
is
not read that one.
Black Label, pretty like I put it on A tier because I think it's really good, really accessible. You don't need a lot of knowledge, and the story, um, it's kind of a it's just a really cool story about Batman being a detective. Now on the other side, I put Batman the Detective. This is one of the Tom Taylor books that didn't fully connect with me. Like
Really?
as much as I love his stuff, and it's an entertaining book, and the Kubert's on art, so like
Oh,
it has
yeah.
a lot going
Good.
for it. But this one's kind of in the same vein. It does deal with some Batman characters, which is funny that it ended up in the same tier. Um, so yeah, I figured I don't know if you have you read either one of those, but since I sent you these without you knowing what they were, I figured maybe you hadn't. So
Yeah.
I just went on some of those. I didn't want to talk about some of the ones that you put on the list without
Yeah.
you being here.
Some are just screenshots literally from my digital library.
Cool.
All right.
Uh,
So what's next?
let's talk about Ego.
We did that one for Comic Book Club.
Yep, yep.
And it's a
What?
short story followed by a few standalones,
Mhm.
but it's Darwin Cook. So,
And that the reason I put it on the B column was because it was not because this book, like you mentioned, has other stories in it
yeah,
that I don't think are as good as the main Ego story.
right. Yeah, you're pretty much paying for the ego story and some other ones they
Yeah,
dropped in, but you're getting Darwin Cook art, so I really consider that a big win.
yeah, same. So I think does this look good here?
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see. Is there anyone you want to in particular you want to point out?
Well, I see that I put in Kingdom Come twice, so
Yeah,
do we want?
there's a few that are said that a couple
I
times.
I, I want to say Kingdom Come. Man,
See,
it's
my gut reaction is here.
yes, but you need some back knowledge going in there.
Yeah,
I don't feel like you can pick up Kingdom Come as a brand new reader and it makes sense to you.
yeah. No, I don't think so either.
I
Um,
think it's definitely you need to have a little bit of DC history under your belt to make the book more entertaining. I still feel like you can read it. I mean, it's Alex Ross, so you're getting an aged DC universe from one of the best artists in the business.
yep, yep.
You're getting an incredible story from Mark Waid that spans the planet and the universe in what happens. I guess this is postmodern superheroes, postmodern
Yeah.
take, and the story clicks. I mean, shit, just seeing an isolated Superman who has failed or a Batman who's been defeated who won't fail. He won't let his body fail.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then all the little Easter eggs in there. I mean, shit, it's an A book, but you have to kind of go in with some knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree with everything you said. So I think that's a good place for it. Let's see. Let's do another Grant Morrison book,
Ooh.
Arkham Asylum.
Okay. I
Where are you
reread
going?
this and
Uh huh.
I definitely think it should be an A. And I'm going to say an A and not an S because you have to kind of go in with knowledge. It's not traditional artwork. Dave McKeon stuff you won't get anywhere else other than like
So
Sandman. You won't get in a traditional superhero story.
that's I as much as I personally love the art, I think the non-traditional approach to this book is what I would put it as I would put this at a B because
Yeah.
of that. Because it's not as approachable as some of the other books on the A tier. That doesn't mean that I don't think it's I don't think it's good. I think it's actually if the next Batman movie was based on this book, I would lose my shit. Um,
I
but yeah,
mean,
it was
it gives you the history of Arkham, which is
yeah,
very cool. It gives
it was
you it gives you a Arkham that's controlled by the Joker with staff that are even staying inside Arkham, and just these nightmare pages.
yeah, it was just it was tough to get into the first time I went into it.
Okay, I
But
can
I
see
tried
that.
again after a few years.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, after rereading, I mean, there's a reason I own this in hardback. Also, at the time, I mean, I'm looking at all these books. Arkham Asylum's a pretty old book, and it's withstand the test of time, and
it
still,
yeah, I didn't realize how old it was until the like when I went in to read it. I'm like, when did this come out? Because I wanted to look at the original covers and all that stuff.
yeah. And we
So
talk about the look of the Joker from all different kinds of artists, but man, that no one really points out Dave McKean's take on it and how disturbing it is in this book.
yep.
He even draws the scare. There's a page where it's just the scarecrow and it's just straw. It's kind of in the darkness, and you can kind of just see the straw outline. And it's so goddamn good. It reminds me of Long Halloween's take.
Okay. Well, look, we don't have a lot of books on the S tier, and I guess I'm looking at everything we have, and there's only a few candidates that I would think. So let's talk about one of those. And is which I don't know which Long Halloween cover you want to use.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I didn't realize I put him
Well,
in here
because I
twice.
really like the one with the pumpkin.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. That one's a different story. That's a different story.
Oh, okay. I thought that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's a cat. It's a cat. Okay, let's do.
yeah.
So
The
Long
Long
Halloween.
Halloween should be two different ones in there.
Okay. Yeah, there's
Uh,
two different ones.
Yeah. And so I have the absolute edition. I love Tim Sale's work on this book. I mean, splash pages of characters that are out of costume that still look fantastic. Uh, you know, I don't want to get into Jeff Loeb and why he doesn't work in comics anymore. I mean,
Or
he
in
doesn't,
content
does he?
period. Uh,
I mean, this guy was on top of the heap and then just kind of shit all over the stuff he did. So we're just going to
yep.
talk about the book as a whole and not Jeff Loeb as a creator.
Yeah, I think so. I put this on the S tier without permission, I guess. But you tell me. And the reason I put it there is because the first of all, the great cultural impact that this book has had. Uh, Also, personally, when I first read this book, and it took me a few times to try to read the book because Tim Cell's art, um, it's a little bit different, but
Yeah.
you have to find the right panel, and then it clicks in your head. And
Yeah.
I found it within the first few pages, and then once I started reading, I couldn't stop. I read this whole like when I first read the Long Halloween, I read that book in one sitting, all 12 issues.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I'm tempted to move it to A and move Catwoman's Win in Rome to S. I feel like that, and I say it outshines it a little bit, but just because I love the character connections in that book more than the Long Halloween. The Long Halloween plays out so big that you don't get
yeah,
the
but
cool moments that When in Rome does
the Long Halloween gives you like a full detective story and this whole
over a
ride,
year. Yeah.
and it goes throughout everything. Like it goes through every aspect of Gotham. You bring in all these villains, um, like you don't just get to see Batman and you like even Calendar Man, like bringing him up and the
Calendar
relationship
Man.
with the cops. There's an absolutely brutal panel of like Batman dropping in on a car and just stopping it flat. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think almost every Batman live action piece of media has referenced this book in some kind of way.
Oh, definitely.
So
Shit,
yeah, I would
it was
be.
even awesome to see the Calendar Man show up in Suicide Squad.
Mhm. So I'd be really hard pressed to for I would need a lot of convincing to move this out of the S tier.
The only convincing to move it out of the S tier is Jeff Loeb,
Yeah,
and that's kind of shitty because then that hurts like everyone else that worked on the book.
right.
And it is referenced in so many other parts of the films. It is one of the iconic Batman stories. Yeah, I'll put it in S. I just
Yeah,
know
this
going
one.
into it, Jeff Loeb's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, this one I definitely fully acknowledge that separation of art from the artist. So
Yeah, but if we're
cool.
gonna rank a book, I'm still gonna call them out.
Yeah, for sure. You need to. I think it's important that when you recommend the book, you let the people you're recommending it to, like, hey, there's a little bit more behind this, so you can make an informed choice.
Yeah.
With that, we have another question here. So most agree that Batman is Joker's greatest villain. Which other villain is your favorite, and what characteristic does that villain bring out in Batman? And Terry says that uh, my favorite is the Riddler because he really highlights Batman detective skills. No, then
Yeah.
you must be really excited for this new movie, Terry.
Oh yeah, he saw it yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool, cool.
Yeah. Oh shit,
Um,
I don't know. There's part of me because like I reread Trinity and I really enjoyed Raja Ghul because he's going to blow up Texas.
oh, great.
Yeah, he specifically calls out Texas and that he's going to blow it up. I love it.
So, would you want
Uh,
you want to start here with
yeah,
Trinity?
let's start at B. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
I haven't read it, so that one's really all on you.
okay, so it is like many other Trinity stories, the first team up of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Matt Wagner does a great job on it. If you loved Grendel, he's done Grendel and Batman. I'm trying to think of other Matt Wagner stuff, but he does great expressions, great faces. Um, and in writing the story, I felt like the story wasn't as strong as some of the other Trinity stories. I would definitely. I mean, the art is an A, but the story's a B.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
don't. I don't. I would say let's leave it at B. I don't know if there's a better Trinity story. I know there's a lot of them, but this is like one of the first times they team up, and I kind of dig it. It's interesting seeing, like you were talking about Bruce and Wonder Woman's relationship earlier. In this one,
Yeah,
they're just completely at odds the entire time, so it's not
I
as
would think
fun.
so. I would think they have very different approaches to and just views of the world.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird because she takes a very non-warrior stance and he's very much like we're going to beat the shit out of this guy until he confesses
Yeah,
kind of thing.
especially if it's their first time meeting. I think after working together for a while, I'm sure that would change. But yeah,
It pivots Superman into the middle, which is interesting because he's kind of defending Bruce and but he's also like defending Wonder Woman's take. So, having those three try to compromise on how they do business is interesting.
yeah,
And but I just don't feel like I felt like the art dominated that book more than the
the
dialogue.
story.
Yeah, the story.
Now, to answer Terry's question, I'm gonna use that as a segue for this. So one of my favorite villains is Ra's al Ghul, because he doesn't want to destroy the Batman. If anything, he wants to recruit him.
Yeah, he wants him to help
Um,
rebuild.
right? He wants and that leads to some kind of weirdness at some points. But overall, I think they're just very good at odds with each other. And then out of their relationship and involving Talia and stuff comes out Damian Wayne, who's now Robin, which is what this book is about, Batman and Robin. Oh, actually, no, this is the
No,
one
no,
with Dick
Batman and
Grayson.
Robin is
I was
Dick
thinking
Grayson,
Batman and
and
Son,
yeah,
Batman and Son, which happens right before this. So this is Dick Grayson. Actually, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would move that to the B because I really like Dick Grayson as Batman.
yeah, it is a good story. The only reason I don't move it to A is because it's not a Frank Quietly book, and I feel like the Grant Morrison Frank Quietly team is always a home run.
Yeah,
And you get the covers and they're all Frank Quietly, but you open the book and they're not. And I was really bummed by that. There are three
yeah.
volumes of it, and it is good. I definitely think it's a B book. But you definitely have to know this isn't Bruce Wayne.
When I was working at Toys R Us years ago, my manager had a stash of because Toys R Us sold comics. I didn't know that, so he had a whole bunch. He had this whole run like in under the desk, and he would just read it as when things were slow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool. Like I remember it a lot because it was this cover that was at the top, them in front of the Batmobile. Yeah, but I like this book a lot too. But yeah, it's definitely kind of disappointing that you open it up and it's not Frank Wiley.
Yeah.
Um,
I I keep going back to the Killing Joke for Terry's question, because that to me might be the best Joker Batman book, because he goes to Joker trying to resolve their problems, and the end of the story resolves their problem. Like,
But do you
Batman's
have
trying
one?
to be ahead of the curve on this.
Do you have one that's not Joker?
Fuck.
I mean, here, look to segue kind of more into this list, and I'm gonna start with this book here on C.
Nightfall, yeah.
Nightfall. And now when I pitched Nightfall to the list, I was only talking about the story, the first part of that story, because we have Nightfall, Night Quest, and Night Vision. I don't remember the third part what it's called.
Yeah, but
But
there's
this
like
is
3 omnibuses of
mhm,
Nightfall. There's
yeah.
a lot to that series, so that's one I just can't, because there's just too much.
Yeah, but if you read just the part of if you find the book that only contains
The
um
series Nightfall.
the series of yeah, Bane dismantling Batman for a week, eventually leading to him breaking his back. And that's the reason I put it on the C tier, because I think the story's good, but
Yeah.
you're right, it's kind of jumbled in with all this other stuff that's going on at the time. Um, but I think the story's good, the art's good. I think this covers like this image is kind of iconic.
Is that the best Bane story?
Um, you know, I I'm gonna say yes only because the Tom King story with Bane is purely based on this Bane. So without this Bane, that
He
story
doesn't
wouldn't
exist.
exist.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
You know,
but as much as I like the book, I think Nightfall, unfortunately, because of nightish shenanigans, as I like to call them, would stay in the C category.
um, 2 books we haven't gotten to. The
Sure.
Joker and I forget what. Oh, this is Batman Noir.
Okay, so let's do Batman Noir because I haven't read that one.
And Killer Croc's in both of those.
Okay.
And it's an interesting take, because Brian Azzarello does Killer Croc as kind of a higher level street thug. He's kind of over some people, but and he's interesting because he's just all muscle. Like, he's just, for Batman to defeat him, it is
Yeah.
just about strength. Croc has no other intentions other than just his own,
Mm-hmm.
and if Batman's in the way, to squash him. That's it.
Cool.
And he's just a quiet criminal in these. He's just kind of like, in one, he works for the Joker, and I don't know. I mean, like,
So I'm gonna recommend to you, whenever it comes out collected or in Hoopla or whatever, Robin and Batman, which is the new Jeff Lemire book with Dustin Wayne art.
yeah.
Killer Croc's a big part of that, so I think you'll enjoy the book.
I almost want to move this up to an A, but you haven't read it, right? You haven't read.
I haven't. No, I haven't. So I can't. I'm gonna trust your judgment on this one.
Well, surprise! I love this book so much that I own it in hard copy. So when you come by to pick up the other stuff, I have this book for you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
I didn't realize I own it 3 times. I
That's
bought it
crazy.
digitally, and I can't remember where I found this one, but this is like the a bigger edition, the deluxe
Yeah.
edition of the
Oh,
story.
okay.
And then I own another hardback of it, that's just the Noir City story.
Yeah, I know they reprint this one a lot for sure. I see it all the time.
Yeah, Eduardo Rizzo's art is very gritty and dirty and fits with
Yeah.
Azzarello's words so good. I'm tempted to move it up to an A, but you kind of have to know the characters going in, because they are different versions. They're just street thugs in this. I mean, Azzarello turns all these super criminals into just street thugs in his stories. He adjusts it for the crime, and he puts them into a mafia leader style, like who works for who kind of thing,
Yeah.
and it pays off.
All right. Well, speaking of Azzarello, let's do Joker. Now, where do you initially want to put this? Because I have an idea of
A.
where I want to put it. You want to put this in A?
I want to put this at A, because
Okay.
the only reason keeping it from an S is you kind of have to know the characters going in. You have to have a little story, and this is a pure crime story. You go
Okay.
in with Jack Frost, or no, it's not Frost, is it? I'm trying to remember the
Jack,
guy.
oh, the henchman.
Yeah, is it Jack Frost?
Maybe maybe that's what he calls him. I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyhow, that he is the guy in charge of picking up Joker after he gets out of jail in this book.
Yeah.
And it's neat because you go through the whole journey as his henchman and driver, but you're with the fucking craziest man in the world. And so you don't know, at times you're just watching him be crazy. And then there's a part of the book where you're now a part of it. You're a part of the crazy because you don't know which way he's going to go every time. I think this Joker book is just fucking solid.
So so the only thing that I have, I guess, that my gripe with this book, by the time I got to read this book, I had read so much other good Harley
Oh, okay.
that when I get to this portrayal of Harley, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude,
This is
you
kind
missed
of a
the mark.
shitty take on Harley because she's
Yeah,
just a stripper.
yeah, and it's just it feels like it could have been utilized more. And I know this book is supposed to be Joker centric, but then don't have like I feel like Harley was
But
just there because of the name.
yeah, but doesn't she also help Joker rip the skin off this guy? Because there's a part in the story where there's a guy they're trying to
Yeah,
deal with, and they skin him alive and put him on stage. And then you see Joker and Harley
yeah,
backstage together. So I wonder if they both did that to him.
yeah. So I won't fight you on the A, but if you had tried to put it on S, I would have that would have knocked it down. I
Yeah,
think.
I think it helps knowing some of the other characters going in,
Hmm.
and because you get Joker, Harley, Killer Croc, shit, who else is in here? But it's all street level crime. It's not the
Yep.
crazy gadgets and stuff that are typically in a superhero book. And Brian Azzarello does crime like no other, man. I mean, this is the 100 Bullets team.
Yeah, I think
Well,
as
no,
a
no, no. I'm sorry, Rizzo.
Rizzo. Yeah,
This was the 100 Bullets team.
yeah. Oh yeah, this is Bermejo,
Yeah.
who also worked on Damn. So let's talk about Damn. Have you read Damn?
I have not read Damned, and it's
Okay,
not because of the bat pole.
dude, this gave me one of my priciest comic books now. Um,
Really?
no,
How much is Damned going for
I think
the?
it's going for like $100 if you have the, and I have two of those, the with the bad wiener, because I have the variant cover. But I'm gonna put Damn. I wanted to put it higher, but because you need that cursory knowledge, it's not supposed to be a sequel to Noel, but
Yeah,
it kind of is. But the book is pretty solid, so I'll put it in B. Lieber Mejo's art that you can't really fail.
he knows how to
Uh,
draw a dick.
he knows how to draw everything, all parts of the body. So, but yeah, I think that wraps up our Azzarello books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Azzarello and his Joker book. Man, rereading that was such a treat.
All right, let's quick hit a few of these before we get into some of the last ones. So we'll save Dark Knight for the last one.
Okay,
Have you read Gates of Gotham?
no,
Okay. So I think it's a fun book, but it definitely is a little bit disconnected. This came out around the time when everything was going to transition into the New 52.
oh, okay,
But you have like this book is co-written by Kyle Higgins and Scott Snyder, who are two of the biggest comic writers now. So I would definitely go back and recommend reading this, but
Kyle
I don't
Higgins,
think it.
really?
Hmm?
You say Kyle Higgins is one of the biggest writers?
I think so. He's doing big things over at Image. He's got his whole superhero universe with Radiant Black.
Oh, I'm thinking that he was just doing books because didn't he just pick up the Power Rangers book?
He finished Power Rangers a little while back.
Okay.
So that's kind of what kind of launched. Yeah, dude, there's so much stuff going on at his super massive verse.
See, I don't
Uh,
know it, so then yeah,
yeah.
well, you might
Well,
need
I
to
definitely
educate me on
recommend it.
that.
I highly recommend those series. Um, so yeah, I would put that there. What about Batman Earth One?
You
It's Gary
know,
Frank art.
it's Gary Frank art, and that's the best I would say, but it's Jeff Johns' story.
I would say the story is definitely better than Three Jokers.
Yeah, the art's better. I would say the art makes it a B book.
Okay, I won't fight you too hard on that.
Okay.
And it is a standalone story because you can start here. It's a good starting point.
Yep.
There's only three. All right. What about White Knight? I think I know where you want to put this, but
I want to
tell me.
put that as an A.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I
I
mean,
agree.
beautiful art, fantastic story, a different take on Joker, Harley, and Batman against each
Yep.
other. And I love that book, man. I mean,
Yep.
as much as I talk about Azzarello and the need for gritty art, that art matches perfectly with the story.
Cool. Now is this Hush?
Yeah.
Okay. Now my gut says Hush should be in the S, but you tell me.
This is one where I'm going to say something that people are going to hate.
Oh boy, here
Jim
we go.
Jim Lee should not draw Batman.
Oh, I disagree with you so hard on that.
I know he does great Batman, but his art typically doesn't line up with the story in a Batman book because his art is very clean and his colors are
Oh,
bright. I just
I'm
Hush
gonna no. I'm
Hush
gonna.
is a pretty Batman book with a grittier story.
I don't think I can let you put Hush lower than an A.
Really?
I'm gonna use my veto power.
I will give that one to you because I own it in an absolute edition, so there
I
you
think
go.
like just
Obviously, I would
even
buy it.
the scene like there's so many like it really sold me on when Batman just beats the shit out of the Joker
Yeah.
and how I didn't know that was something Jim Lee could do.
I know, but all I ever see when someone goes Jim Lee Batman are just poses, like him standing on the gargoyle or him,
Yeah,
it's just I don't
I
see
I
the same look that I get from a Rizzo book.
well that's true. That's definitely very different. I think the main issue is that because of the I guess the appeal of a Jim Lee art in from then now that he's kind of been overexposed and like there's just so much of it and like almost every book has a Jim Lee variant,
Yep.
or at least it did for a few years. Then there's the whole New 52 where because it was so secret, he pretty much had to redesign everything, and obviously not all the characters fit Jim Lee style. Um, but I think at the time, if you just kind of put yourself back at the time where this book was happening,
Yeah. I mean, it was
that's
exciting to
kind of
get Jim Lee doing that book.
yeah, that's kind of the approach that I'm looking at this.
Okay.
Uh,
I
let's do
definitely will leave it there. Uh, I bought it in an absolute edition. It is a very
yeah.
pretty book. I don't go back and reread it a lot.
Oh, I did see that. And I do.
Okay.
I do, and I think the story is really good too. Like once again, separating and I, separating yourself from a lot of these writers. That's the problem with old books, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
people are just live their lives in a way that they're like, oh, could have made better choices.
Yeah, but
But
Jeff Loeb was being
yeah,
shitty while he was making Marvel TV when he was doing Daredevil. I mean, come on. I don't know.
yeah. Well, speaking of Dark Victory,
Okay.
now I read this once, but I don't remember. Like I don't know where I would put it.
I would leave it at C.
Okay.
Shit, though. Bump it up to B for Tim Sale. The
The
Tim
the
Sale
problem
art
is
is
that
really what you get the book for.
yeah, I think the problem with Dark Victory is that it's the sequel to the Long Halloween, so
Yeah.
the comparisons are gonna be, like you can't help yourself, right?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know these two. What is this pumpkin book?
Oh, that's the another Jeff Loeb Tim Sale book. It's just standalone stories of the Long Halloween stuff. And
Okay.
again, for Tim Sale, I would immediately put it as a B. It's standalone stories that take place in the Halloween universe. So if you
Oh,
enjoy
okay.
that, again, jump on board for Tim Sale.
Cool. What about this Joker book?
Okay, so that is one of the oldest books I have. It is
Hold on.
And I believe that is a Bill Sienkiewicz cover.
It looks like Sienkiewicz for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is from 1980 something.
Cool.
Um, and it's printed on old style like newspaper, like paper.
Yeah, it looks
Uh,
old.
yeah, and the stories in there, I mean, but it does give you a lot of great standalone Joker stories, even from the beginning.
Whoops, not me. Oh, okay. So just collect. It's a big collection of.
It's very much done in the same vein that the Catwoman one is.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a lot. So if you don't like one story, you go to the next one. It's got, obviously, there's some Neil Adams Joker. They just pull some of the best stuff.
Neat.
And what does the cover look like underneath? Just a plain old text.
Cool. So, based on that information, I would say, to be fair, with some of these anthologies, we would put it in the C category.
Yeah, it's a C. It's good stories, and if you don't like that, you can go to the next one. But they are a lot older, so they don't tend to be heavy crime stories. They tend to lean into the heavy superhero stories.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the dark. What is it called?
Dark Knight Returns.
No, no, the other dark, the Bruce Timm book,
Oh, A Dark Knight Story.
A Dark Knight Story. Yeah,
That is an A.
I
We did
agree.
that. We did that for Comic Book Club. Paul Dini tells a Batman story that takes place in the real world because at the time he was doing Batman the Animated Series, and he
Yeah.
got mugged and went through some shit, and he ties it into a Batman story really well.
Yep.
I really recommend it.
It also, I
I
really
almost want to
like
put it
how
in an S.
I, I I mean, I won't fight you too hard on that. I think the way he uses Batman and his work with Batman to deal with his trauma,
Yeah,
I think it's very interesting. The art is fantastic. This is also Rizzo, right? If I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have a problem with it being an S.
All right.
All right,
Let's see
so
here. It
these are
looks
all
like these are
repeats
all
other than.
duplicates except for Dark Knight Returns.
All right,
All
Clyde.
right, let's debate this. Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns, is it an S? It has been one of the most influential books. It has inspired so many of the films, and I mean, if you go from that book, that book sprouts Azzarello's take. I feel like that book gives you more of the crime stuff that we've gotten. Um, I mean, even if you look at what was going on at the time, there was a period where Brian Azzarello, Ed Brubaker, Brian Michael Bendis, and I can't remember who the fourth writer was, were all crime writers who came into comics. And I
Yeah,
feel like they came at it from maybe this book.
yeah. I'm gonna have a hard time.
I mean,
Uh,
the only reason I would put it down at an A is just Frank Miller's just the person versus the art. That's the only complaint I have. I need
okay.
to reread it. It used to be an annual read for me, and I don't know why I stopped, but I think I'm going to keep this one out. It's interesting, too, because the Brian Azzarello book, the one that I'm going to give you, I owned digitally and 2 hard copies. I owned Dark Knight. This was one of the first hardbacks I ever got as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's one of the oldest books. This is a first print of Dark Knight Returns. And fuck, man. I think it's an S. I mean,
Yeah. Look, and I'm gonna quote Ben Affleck here, or Batman. It's the Gotham in me that wants to put it as an S. And yeah, I think look, it's
you
just
have to
worth
know
it.
Batman going in, though.
Do you really? I mean, you just have to know who Batman is. I think.
That's true. That's true.
I
You
don't
just
like
need to
the
know
book.
Batman and Joker.
I think the book gives you everything you need, and I don't think I'm not gonna. I'm not saying that there haven't been other Batman stories that are probably better, more interesting. I just think you have to add in context. At least we're adding in context for this tier, like if there was some cultural impact to the book,
Oh yeah.
and its place in time. Um, so yeah, man, I'm pretty happy with our list. I
Oh
think it
yeah.
looks good. I'm sure we missed a lot because obviously there's been a lot of Batman comics, and we can definitely revisit this with, or maybe just even take this same list and have Josh and Kyle pick it apart.
I definitely want to save this and have their take on it. There's one
Yeah.
book in here that we're doing for Comic Book Club that is what is it, The Last Night on Earth?
Yep.
And I don't think we rated that book. Have you read that? It's
Yes, I read the last night on it.
I would definitely put that as a D.
Oh, oh, geez.
What do you think about Last Night on Earth?
I think so. I can see. Yeah, I can see that D would be the place only because it's there's so much required reading for it.
Yeah.
It's the ending of a run of years, years in the making. So
Yeah, I just didn't feel like the Joker voice was the Joker's voice. I just felt like it was an annoying part of the
it
book.
it's definitely a Joker that's been through all the shit. So you, like I
Yeah.
said, in order to get it, you probably have to read all the other stuff to figure out how Joker got there, because it aligns with what Snyder and Capullo have been doing on their other work.
Right.
But yeah, um, okay. So I need to see.
You saving
I
the
need to
image?
log in. Oh, I just downloaded the image.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll save that.
Yeah, I definitely want to
Yeah.
hear Kyle and Josh's take.